Thank you, comrades. It's an honor to share the stage with so many wonderful speakers the past 2 days. I recently returned from Cuba as a part of the 50th anniversary in the footsteps of Che Brigade, honoring Che's revolutionary legacy. Now, we all know that 3 major Hurricane 4 or 5, Category 4 or 5 hurricanes have hit the Caribbean and southern United States this season. Maria, Irma, and Harvey. Now, while these storms were all similar from a meteorological standpoint, the human impacts of these storms were not the same. And why was that? It was because of the principles of the societies that they impacted. Why is it that, as Comrade Jerry mentioned earlier, the Puerto Rican electrical grid still does not work, yet Cuba repaired 70% of its electrical grid within 1 week? Within 1 week. The entire grid was operating within 3. How did that happen? How did that happen? Why is it that more people died in a Florida nursing home during Hurricane Irma across the street from a functioning hospital than in all of Cuba? Why is it that in 2004 and 5, Cuba was able to evacuate over 1 million people in front of hurricanes, whereas Hurricane Rita in Houston indirectly killed over 100 people during the evacuation? Why is that? It's simple. It's socialism. It's because Cuba is a socialist country led by a Leninist party. It's because the United States is an imperialist nation run by and for the banks. It is because Puerto Rico is a U.S. colony run by those banks through a fiscal control board. That is the difference. Cuba's not just good at it. It's because Cuba is socialist. I want to finish up with the 1 minute I have left with a personal story about the hurricane in Cuba. I have an article appearing in the paper this week with a lot of the details. You can read there about why Cuba is able to respond so effectively. About halfway through our trip, we had an afternoon off to walk through the city of Sancti Spiritus. And as some of us walked through a plaza, the worker at a souvenir stand asked us, "Are you from the Che Brigade?" You know, he saw all our shirts with Che and whatnot. So he said, "Yes, how did you know?" And he responded that he'd seen us in an article in the local paper that morning, and that he'd seen us on the news and then on television a few days earlier. So during that TV spot, a woman who now lives in New York but is from Puerto Rico spoke. She spoke about the hurricane. And this man very much wanted to speak with her, because he had a friend in Puerto Rico, a close friend, that he had not been able to speak with since the hurricane. He didn't know if his friend was alive, dead, in a hospital, evacuated. He really didn't know. So I was able to go and find this woman, bring her to the shop, and using her phone, after a few tries, we were able to call his friend in Puerto Rico and find out that he was okay. It was for me, it was the highlight of the trip. And to me, it also highlights just how profoundly unnecessary the misery of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico is, that it's a result of capitalism, not weather. Thank you, everybody.